We walked through the city to the battlefield. I asked Baba, what happened to Maharaj's eyes? They are blind, baby. And that is why his wife, Rajamata Gandhari Devi, also avoids seeing this world by covering her eyes to be sad. Rajmata Gandhari Devi? Yes. Mother of Yuvraj Duryodhana. She has 99 more sons. Now you will see them all in the battlefield. You will also see Maharaj Pandu's son Pandava now. Pandava? Yes. The real ruler of this kingdom was Kauravaraj Maharaj Pandu, but since he died prematurely, this kingdom came to his brother Maharaj Dhritarashtra. The 5 sons of that Maharaj Pandu are called Nagajan Pandavas. I mean, there are 105 princes in Kurukula, but in total, 5 Pandavas and 100 Dhartarashtra. I wondered how so many princes would treat each other. And 2 Maharajas and 1 grandfather Bhishma. Baba said, who are the 2 Maharajas? One Maharaj Dhritarashtra and the other Vijura. How is Vidur Maharaj? Did you call him Gurudev? Yes, baby. Gurudev Vijura is the brother of Maharaj Dhritarashtra. But he has taken the throne. Retirement? What is sannyas? Sannyas means they have given up everything. He did not claim authority over this kingdom, this palace, this glory. So how do they live here? So that the rule of your blind brother does not become lame. Every word of his is respected here. So is the mother of the Pandavas. Rajmata Kunti Devi. Rajmata Kunti Devi. I was about to ask some question. Just then a cuckoo croaked loudly from the side jug and flew away from Ashoka's tree and even went off our heads. I looked at him. I remembered Bhagdata. He once said, Saptaswaranta taunting crow grows in the crow's nest. Because his mother would have made him to be born in the crow's nest. What to do with growing? When the right time came, I heard his voice releasing from the sky, so it happened. Walking we came to a magnificent temple. That temple belonged to Lord Vishnu. Its peak was gold. In the falling rays, the peak shone on the blue background of the sky. The golden rays were reflected. Maharaj himself has set the summit, said Baba, pointing to the summit. I began to think, the king of this temple is blind. This vast glory belongs to him, but he can never see it with his own eyes. Isn't the blind man who gives such glory to the blind king and makes such a cruel arrangement that he cannot see it? Hundreds of sons and this king with such immense splendor should be called lucky. Because he has no eyes to see all this. How could your 100 sons know this blind father? And most to call this king lucky is to say unlucky because he does not have eyes to see all this. How could your 100 sons know this blind father? And most importantly, how could he keep an eye on such a vast empire without eyes? Well, some questions just can't be answered. Baby, salute Gurudev as soon as you are gone. Baba instructed me as I was leaving. Baba, how do you look, Gurudev? I asked Otskya. Tell me how. You'll see them now. We hurried on. The streets of the city were crowded with townspeople. On both sides stood tall mansions. The pinnacle of the temple had penetrated into the belly of the sky. The bells had filled the atmosphere. On the way, the horsemen were going to the Ganges for water, carrying horses in satya pots. The markets were crowded. After much walking we came to a huge iron gate. On either side of it, the black stone shore was sloping in the distance. The triangular saffron flag was fluttering on the magnificent arch at the entrance. The gatekeeper saluted as soon as he saw us. We bent down and went inside. It was the battlefield of Kuru. Inside was a large hall, and in the center was a grand arena with a plan. It had many parts. On one side was an arena for wrestlers. It was covered with a thin layer of red clay. Many wrestlers and youngsters were fighting against each other. In the middle of the arena, a young man with a thoracic limb was seen dancing in a circle. There was no one around him. He was dancing around the arena with his hands up. Karna, that Prince Bhim, look how he is walking around challenging everyone in the arena. Baba said, pointing to him. On the other side, there was a huge space left for horse riding. In that place, the wheels were drawn so that the horses could run in a line. While running them, trenches were dug in various places to create continuous obstruction. Some trenches were filled with water, and high fences were erected in places. Many youngsters were seen teaching horses across all obstacles. On the east side, there was a similar battlefield for wielding swords. Armor of various shapes and shields, large and small, were hung on its side bars. Many warriors were wielding swords. They were biting each other's teeth and lips. On the west side was a circular courtyard of the same size. Some youngsters were playing with the mattress in it. The roaring circles were taking over. Many large and small playgrounds for Shul, Tomar and Shatakni were built in that magnificent space. The surrounding stone pavilion was filled with various arms. In the middle of the arena, there was a tall and long stone square that could be seen in the middle. The square was decorated with bows of different shapes and colors. Numerous bows of arrows were laid out on one side. There were many targets in front. A dark-skinned young man was sitting on the fourth floor, wearing a virasana, and was sitting on his right leg. He had pulled the copy of the bow in his hand up to his ear. He wiped one eye and fixed the doll of the other eye in front of the tip of the arrow. Beside him stood a tall man, dressed in a salwar kameez, with a white beard, with his hair tied together. His mother was as calm as the river Doha. He straightened his hand on the back of the shadowy youth. He began to explain something to her. The young man was listening intently. Baba pointed to the young man and said, "And that's what Reverend Gurudev Dharan is instructing him to do." Acha Arjuna. Why not, but why can't he wear a more elaborate virasana? A thought came to my mind. Gurudev Drona, however, looked as grand as the Ashoka tree. The beautiful clothes on his body adorned his tall body. We started walking towards the square on the way to the arena. As soon as I saw the patangan around me, I felt that the heat in my body was increasing automatically. The young man sitting on the fourth floor should be held up by the rod and virasana should be shown to him once and for all. In the arena of wrestling, one should play hoda with that Dandagat Bhima who is making rounds like Ranavat Redya. We came to that high quadrant of archery. Prince Arjuna sitting on the top shot an arrow. He snuck into the distant wooden target in front. Guruvarya Drona slapped him on the back and he cried out with joy, "Sadhu!" Arjuna. But go closer and see how far your index arrow has penetrated into the target. Look. Arjuna got up obediently and took strong steps towards the target. In the meantime, Baba came forward. Standing under the fourth floor, he paid homage to Guruvarya Drona. I looked at Guruvarya Drona. They were facing west. As the evening rays fell on his thick, auspicious beard, it shone like silver. The beard was full, the long hair was straight down to the abdomen. Some of them were flying here and there due to the wind. There were ashes on the forehead, on the buttocks and on the open abdomen. The old forehead was covered with a net of 8 due to old age. The nose was straight and stylish. His eyebrows were also white. His eyes, however, shone with extraordinary confidence. Yet there was peace in them. I bowed to them with great reverence. Baba wanted me to study martial arts under the supervision of that guru. This is my son Karna, Baba told them. I had hoped that they would ask me something about the earrings in my ear, but they simply said, your son Adhirtha. So how did you get him to the battlefield today? To put on your feet. Why on my feet? If he gets a little bit of warfare education along with the princes. Adhirtha, martial arts is only the duty of the losers. If your son wants to be a disciple in this battlefield in the team of grace, but how can you learn to come with the prince? Baba's face darkened for a moment. He did not understand what to say for a while. At last he said to Kasantari, we started returning after paying homage to Gurudev. On the way, Prince Arjuna met us on his way back, shooting an arrow at the target. I stared at him. Its color was bluish like the sky. The chin was pointed like the tip of a spear. His watery eyes were becoming dull to both earlobes. His nose was straight and stylish. The cupboard was as grand as a plate. The eyebrows were straight. His whole face was wonderful. Making a sweet sound like a bell, he asked Baba, Uncle, did you come to Champangarahan today? Yes. I brought my son-in-law. Arjuna looked at me. He must be looking at my earrings with more amazement than my eyes. Just as he was about to ask me something, a coil came out of the sky and the two of us collided. We all stumbled and asked for 2 steps. Everyone looked up with some fear and a lot of curiosity. Above, a rock-colored eagle fluttered its wings, fluttering its wings horizontally through the sky. In the middle, he was bending his neck and looking down at the ground. A Shamvarni Bhujanga had just fallen. The eagle must have been circling in the sky to pick him up, leaving the whistle 2 or 3 times. He waved his fangs here and there and then he started running towards the place where he was afraid. At lightning speed, Prince Arjuna aimed his arrow at the bow and began to look at the running serpent. At that moment, someone shouted from the 4th floor, Arjuna, put your hands down. There was great power in that voice. Arjuna lowered his hand as if he was on fire. The snake, running at the speed of an arrow, disappeared in an instant on a rocky bank. The sound came back from the 4th, Arjuna, crush the serpent within yourself before you kill that certain serpent. The serpent of wrath is terrible. Don't raise your hand against the weak. We looked at Chaudhurya. He was Gurudev Drona. A tall, but a very gentle-faced young man rushed to Arjuna. Putting his hand on his back, he asked her in a very soft tone, how could you lift a bow like that, Partha? Arjuna stood silently. I asked Baba with my own eyes who that tall young man was. He whispered in my ear, Senior Pandava Yudhishthira. In an instant, all the disciples on that magnificent arena gathered around Arjuna. Everyone at once asked him, what happened? What happened? So I started asking questions. I came out of that mess. I looked around the arena closely, because from tomorrow I wanted to learn there, but only one question was mixing in my mind. Why can't I learn with princes? Gurudev Magha said, warfare is only for Kshatriyas. What is Kshatriya? Am I not a Kshatriya? We came out of that grand entrance by registering my and Shona's name in the school. Baba was not saying anything. Finally I asked them, Dad, why can't I learn with the princes? Because you are not a Kshatriya baby. He said, damage. What is damage? He who is born in Rajkula is a Kshatriya. You're born into a thread baby. He patted my shoulder gently to explain. Kul. What are the 1,000 hands of those born in Rajkul? Why are they so important? It simply came to our notice then. Come to this school regularly from tomorrow. Keep learning what you can get. I was not satisfied with their answer. My mind started comparing Maharaj Dhritarashtra and Gurudev Dharan like crazy. Maharaj Dhritarashtra of Hastinapur, who takes my face in his hand and tries to see my earrings with his non-eyes. And my beautiful earrings, who is this Guruvarya Dronar who doesn't even give instructions. Truly, these Gurudevs are very different from these Maharajas. Say, don't raise your hand against the weak. Is Gurudev of Kauravas, who calls the serpent weak, wise or impractical? Didn't they know that the same black serpent could turn that Prince Arjuna black and blue in an instant? Wasn't it a bad omen for Arjun and me to have a snake fall? Yes. How strange is the mind? It was just a coincidence. But when I saw the eagle, I always remembered the question of the eagle. Grandpa, will you go as high as the eagle bird? Crazy Shona. I have actually seen that sometimes even that eagle has to scurry around the earth like a crow in search of its prey. He would have always been higher in the sky than no. We returned to the palace. Shona was sitting in the hall waiting for us. Amatya Taurus was standing next to him. The haze of the evening fell on all those palaces, and it was as magnificent as the sky, but felt depressed. I, Amatya, Baba and Shona went to a hall on the south side of the palace. Baba used to live in that hall. The hall had a window on the east side. I peeked out of it. In the distance, the stone wall around the magnificent battlefield was visible. The river Ganga was flowing calmly by turning it. Everything in Hastinapur, like a small child who has been tired from playing all day, was beginning to calm down. A servant came in and lit a large stone sami in the corner with a palm in his hand. The vague faces of Amatya, Baba and Shona glowed. Sutraj, what happened? Have you registered the names of your sons? Amatya asked Baba earnestly. Yes. Baba just answered. His mind must be engaged in some deep thought. It simply came to our notice then. Tell the outside servant what you need. I'm coming now. Amatya left. A waiter from the kitchen brought our food. We ate and talked. As usual, Shona was asking many questions, but I did not pay any attention to his questions. Sitting on the stage, I was looking at the Avalya Shah Jyoti in the cornerstone Sami. I had such a strange fascination with everything that was luminous. One after the other, the events unfolded before our eyes, trying to weave a weird series of them all. My mind began to wander. Shona, who was running after the chariot to raise her arms with both of his hands to come with me. Its awkward move. He was the first hero I saw in the Kuru dynasty. How sincerely mine he expressed his opinion about Kundals. He was looking at me with his hand on my shoulder. Just be a prince, but he is as strong as Duryodhana. His father Maharaj Dhritarashtra holding my face in his hand and looking at it with the touch of his hand. Vijura looking like an auspicious lotus in the lake in front of the palace. Amatya Vrishavmo of the vast kingdom of Kauravas who have come to take us here. Bhima, who takes a circle on one foot in the arena of wrestling as if he is going crazy in his own rhythm. Arjuna pretending to be an archer by wearing Virasana like Vendalya. Guruvarya Drona, like the ocean, who had no trace of his mind. Yudhishthira who speaks like an adult at a young age. As my mind wandered, I immediately tried to compare Yuvaraj Duryodhana and Arjuna, Maharaj Dhritarashtra and Gurudev Dharan, Vijura and Yudhishthira, but none of them were comparable. How independent everyone was and how different our existence was. What kind of people in the world and what kind of people to go to. Whose imagination makes it? Why are they created? Who is the inventor of this world? What is his purpose in producing all these fish? Because one doesn't look the other, and the other doesn't. Well, these questions can never be answered by anyone. Ingudi oil from the stone front was now exhausted. Her flame was dimming. Shona had never slept. Even Baba, who was tired from the day's journey and the pipes in Rajnagari, had fallen asleep. I got up side by side and put a soft punk on the light that was looking at Vizu. I could feel the burning smoke of the oil in that exhausting air. We came to the stage and lay down. It was my first day in Hastinapur. Memory should be as whimsical as the guest. She can come and stand at the door of the mind at any time. I suddenly remembered Radhamat. Today, I was disturbed by the realization that she would be alone in our leaf hut in Champangri. She must have eaten all the leaves all day long, forgetting that I am not there. She must have called me many times as usual, Vasu, Vasu. Isn't the mother's mind really the abode of all love in Tribhuvan? When she arrived, she gave me a silver box as a souvenir. After all, why did she give this darling thing to her beloved son? She said, whenever you remember me, visit this box. Respect her instead of your mother. What a wonderful mind she has. What would she think? How could a lifeless box fill a mother's place? Mother, has the thirst for milk ever been quenched? But no matter what happens, I must keep your feelings to myself. No matter what happens, I will cherish your memory for the rest of my life. I gently let go of the box that had been tied to the knot. Out of sheer reverence, I nodded and placed it gently in a corner of the stage. I loved three people in the world. One is my mother, the other is my father, and the third is Niraga's Shona. I also had a fascination for three things. One is Gangamata, who talks to me with her countless mouths. The other is Adityanaran, who always brings me a huge source of excitement, and now the third is a simple sign given by my mother, a small silver box. That box reminded me of Champangri. The calf of my mind began to push the udder of the motherland. Many sweet streams of memories flowed from it. I fell asleep sometime while tasting their sweetness.